Alrighty. Guess you're wondering why I brought you all here today. It's because Ethereum just hit 4,000. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for being here at Dcentral Con, and hopefully you enjoy this panel. Feel free to come in, have a seat, come a little bit closer. It is a little cold on this stage, so if we start shivering or shaking, you know, it's a cold game and a bear market. So, anyways, I'm going to let these illustrious speakers introduce themselves and a little bit on their background and what they're a part of, if you're not familiar, and then we'll roll into this conversation in regards to the creator renaissance that's happening in Web3, which I think this is we're using revolutionary technology during a digital renaissance, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, without further ado, Miguel, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. How's everyone doing? Hope you're enjoying yourself out here in Miami. My name is Miguel. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I am a musician by profession, primarily, but I started a community called Sick World that kind of works in conjunction with a brand that I'm building, a life and style brand that I'm building, and we're a creative community, cross-discipline, and we're looking to leverage our creativity to create change that we want to see in the world. So it's a pleasure to be here with everyone, and we're really excited about what Dcentral has been bringing to the space. I'm very happy to be here, so happy to meet you guys and happy to join.
My name is Lin Dai. I'm the co-founder CEO of OneOf. OneOf is a Web3 company, technology builder for musicians, for athletes, and for brands. So we provide a whole suite of services to launch NFT projects. From launching NFT projects to building very complicated kind of Web3 enterprise commerce systems. We work with everybody from Doja Cat to Biggie Smalls, Warner Music Group, the Grammys, and on the sports side, everybody from Wayne Gretzky to Muhammad Ali. On the brand side, Anheuser-Busch, American Express, a lot of major companies, helping these companies with hundreds of millions of users to kind of take the right steps to get into the Web3 space.
What's up, guys? My name is Romeo Lacoste. I was born in Montreal, Canada. I live in Los Angeles. I've been a tattoo artist for 10 years. I've tattooed many of the top world celebrities like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Kendrick Lamar, Marshmello. I've been on a few tattoo TV shows. I've been in the crypto space since 2017, and now I'm creative directing my own Web3 project, so I'm really excited about that.
Very cool. And my name's Eric, or Motivate. I built one of the largest NFT and DeFi communities in the world. Work with brands like Hennessy, Netflix, artists like Doja Cat, Flosstradamus, and a handful of others in the space. And I have a project called New Friendship Tech, which is just turning social currency into equity by way of participation using blockchain. So that means everybody in this room, you're providing value by being in this room and attribution to this conference by being at this conference. And that should not get neglected or pushed aside or diluted. We appreciate each and every one of you. And there's ways of showing that now, especially when we could just gift you something into your wallet after the fact. So yeah, it's NFTs, New Friendship Tech. We're using technology to create new friendships in this digital renaissance, which, I want to go into that word because I think we've beaten community to death. I think renaissance is getting there. But what would you guys say is like why do people keep calling this a digital renaissance? What's different in the creative process or the creative minds, or I guess the way that people view this space as something different from what we've been doing or how we've been doing it? Do you know why, or have a reason or a thought on like why people keep clinging to that idea, that narrative with the Web3 space?
From my perspective as a creator, I would say the Renaissance aspect of it, I think, has a lot to do with creative control and sort of the removal of the middleman. I mean, the proposition of anything being decentralized is one that I think a lot of people are having a lot of challenges in understanding. That being the primary function of blockchain, it's kind of when people understand that having a centralized bank, the way that we all maybe put our money in a bank now, and they still control how much you can pull out. They control how it gets lended, and they make money off of that money that is yours, and you don't see any of that. That's a centralized process that something like blockchain gives us a chance to bypass and then control. So in the same way, as a creator, I believe it's a renaissance because it's given us a new process through which we can communicate and build directly with our audiences. And I think though we've had, Web 2 and the proposition of the internet, it's just a complete different accountability that blockchain gives us that's not centralized, and it's shared amongst all of the participants. So it is a new way, a new process, but it's really, it's almost taking all of the same, to me in my mind, it takes all of the same propositions the internet has and just makes it owned by everyone all at the same time. So maybe that's what it is to me. It's just that there's no middleman. It's all direct, which is excellent.
Yeah, I do think it's like the realest and rawest form of direct-to-consumer that we've ever seen. And a lot of people do say, like, not your keys, not your wallet. Well, I guess you could say not your bank, not your money. Or you could say not your masters or publishing, not your record. And now that process is open to a lot of people to contribute and participate in a way that we haven't seen before. And I think that's where you kind of steered that to in my head. That's my recap. Lynn, what are your thoughts on that? You're working with a lot of different types of creatives, and I'm sure they all have their opinion on this space, and you being an introduction to them, and one of being a platform that is really cross-format. Like, what would you say is the general consensus on?
Yeah, we work with a lot of iconic artists, and really to kind of convince everybody to kind of really start participating and paying attention to the Web3 space. There's a few very key important things that we kind of educate everybody on, right? Like, number one is the ownership thing that Miguel talked about. Like, artists never really own their music, their performance, and whatever, because they basically, at the beginning of their career, usually they sign a record deal and collateralize that, right? Or future writing, publishing earnings or future recording earnings with a entity that's able to fund your project. So in exchange, it's a venture model, and that model is kind of like really unfriendly to artists. Number two, the big difference really is, why Web3 is better is it turns your relationship with your end consumer. And this goes beyond just like artist-fan relationship, right? It's a commerce model that is a two-way street. Because before Web3, Miguel would be telling his fans that, like, hey, buy my album, buy my ticket, and I'll give you a great experience. Now he can basically say, like, hey, participate in this community, you hold these tokens, and if you help support this community and help support me, you will directly benefit because your token is going to be worth a lot more, right? Like, because there's only so many people that can participate in this. The participatory ability for fans and consumers is like never before existed in kind of the first 200 years of the capital market, right? So it's really exciting.
Yeah, newfound investments in people, right? It's social capital, social currency, more than a like, more than a follow or a subscription, just a whole new world of, how I can give back to the people that are giving to me. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Romero, you being an artist as well and more of an illustrated / tattoo world, I'm sure you have books and books and books of art, and this space probably is just full of excitement for you because there's just so many different ways that you could repurpose that, and distribute it into a whole new life. Why would you view this space and creating in it anything different from like what you've been doing previously with the high level talent that you've been working with?
Well, it's kind of funny because so I've been a tattoo artist since I was 17, but my first passion and what actually got me into being a tattoo artist actually was I was a big fan of anime and video games. Like, I grew up drawing like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon when I was like 12 years old. I used to sit on my bed. And this was before there was like Netflix and you couldn't even pause it. So you had to just it was streaming on TV and you had to just watch it and draw it while you're watching it. But that was like my first passion. I'm sure that's what a lot of people got them into art. You know, I know a lot of, like, for a lot of kids, that was kind of like what really got them through, you know, those times when you're young, and that's what kind of got me into being a tattoo artist. So now it's kind of crazy because I always had a dream and a passion to be involved in something like anime and video games and Pokemon and these more like these sort of like video games, sort of like illustrative, you know, series and comics and things like that. But back then, before the Web3 space, there really wasn't an opportunity. You had to go to college, you had to be an illustrator, you had to kind of go through all these really difficult steps to be able to get involved in these IPs. Now, with the Web3 space, you see people all the time. I mean, look at Bored Apes. Bored Apes was just created by a couple guys who created an IP. They created a project. They were early on. The project blew up, but now it's massive. And you see a lot of these projects coming along. It's a lot easier now. People like me, people who aren't even like me or as successful as me, can hire a graphic designer, can draw themselves, can create an IP, and with building a community and building a social following, you can literally create an entire brand. And now, for someone like me, I'm able to get involved in creating my own series, my own project. It doesn't have to be involved with tattooing. I don't have to go to college and go to be a part of some huge studio to be involved in creating, you know, the next you know, anime series or the next comic series. So this new wave has really empowered a lot of the people and given them the ability to have opportunities they could have never had before, and it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I see that, you know, the community component of it plays such a role in how people are viewing things. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, what were they thinking before? Like, you know, where's your community living before? Now everybody's native communities are Discords, Telegrams, WhatsApp, group chats. We used to have message boards and forums, but now more than ever, the emphasis is on community and community building and letting them have that participation in your process, which I think that level of transparency requires a lot of vulnerability, and you're essentially allowing for market research to happen before your eyes. It's like, oh, you guys don't like this? Okay, then you change it because you're part of it, right? So I think that's a beautiful component of the space and this renaissance component of the, I guess, just industry at large. And with that, like, what would you say is one of the biggest hurdles that you found in operating in this space, since it's almost like, you know, you got to learn the code if you want to speak the language. And this sounds like a bunch of foreign words to a lot of people when you're talking blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, et cetera, et cetera. I just tell people NFTs stand for Ninja fucking Turtles. But what would you say is like an obstruction or adversity that you faced in bringing people to understand what you're doing or trying to do in this space? This can go to any of you. Don't be shy.
Yeah, I'll say something controversial. You know, I think the fluff and the hype is really dangerous and bad for the space. I'll say, you know, Beeple's $69 million NFT, like, certainly put NFT on the consciousness of mainstream consumers, but it's, you know, I think in a way it really did a huge disservice. Everybody look at the space as something for a quick money grab. I'm sure Miguel worked on his craft for 15 years before, right, he really, you know, gained commercial success. That's with everything. So basically last year were filled with 99% projects that really didn't care about a community, that used community as a word, versus, like, you know, you can see how many, like, real projects that's still holding their floor price and people are still working on things. It's a fraction, right? So I think the hype really is a hurdle, and it's almost like we self-inflicted it in the excitement of the bull market, and we really need to recognize that and rally around kind of the builder that's still, like, on stage right now. So,
do you think financial incentive damages the integrity of the art?
I think when people think there is a quick dollar to be made, the motivations are different. And there is just a lot of different ways to kind of tackle that problem, right? Like, as we seeing now, the trading volume on a lot of these projects were artificial, or like farms that's kind of trading back and forth, right? So it's very hard. You know, the second thing that's a big hurdle is, like, the tools today for the consumers and fans to engage is very technical, very, very difficult. Like, you had to be a technology sleuth and like super savvy to really trace all these things that should be a red flag, right? Like if you just read the trading volume for the last 24 hours on OpenSea, you're like, oh shit, this project is pumping, and you don't know if that's like kind of like wash trading between wallets. So there need to be a lot more tools to build to make it easier to understand for broader base participation. And then there should be, I'm glad like a lot of the froth got washed out. So you can see the project that's still building. Like walk down to NFT now, the gateway right now, the project that's still out there, like communicating with their fans and supporting their communities, are the project that's gonna be here 10 years from now.
And Miguel, has people know you as a music artist, but also doing a lot of other things, and you express yourself in different mediums. You're building community with SICK, right? So how is that explanation of what you're doing being delivered to? I would think that like that would be an obstruction of you having to figure out how to effectively communicate what you're doing to people that are like, I'm down regardless, but like I don't get it, right? So what would you say that is?
Yeah, I totally would say that educating and clarity in educating is probably the biggest differentiator between people who really are going to become a part of the community and stay a part of the community, and kind of tacking on to just the idea that the motivation in the bull market, a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, when things were really ramping up and we were seeing so many projects just go crazy and things being traded on a secondary like non-stop, and just things just jutting up so crazy. I think that's a natural progression, because we live in a market system in general, and people are having to survive. We're all here. We all have to find a way to make a living, and that's a big part of the proposition. So money will always be a part of it. I think now what's happening is we're starting to see the intention become the basis of whether or not communities or projects really do win, or if they kind of fall by the wayside. And one of the things that we were just talking about this, so we had a space just maybe 45 minutes ago for our community, and it was that, instead of pushing the monetary, equity of the community, or what the community has to offer in terms of equity, it's more about, to me, I think what will differentiate projects in the future is what is the ethos of the project? Do we align on what we believe? And because when you align with people on belief systems, those are the things that keep the glue. And as a musician, as any artist will tell you who's done it for long enough to be consistent and to be able to traverse the adversity, you have to be doing it for the love first. It's the ones that do it for the love that always see the money later on, but the love has to come first. And so I think winning in this part of the market that we're in now, I think the differentiator will be those communities that center around what they love the most and really bond on that, and then let the mechanical part do what it's supposed to do. That's mechanics, that's math and economics, and however you build the equity in the community, but it always should center around an ethos and the love of a similar love. I think that's the big differentiator.
Yeah, no, it's the why, right? At the end of the day, mission statement, core values, ethics, ethos, and I think a lot of us we could say we did it for the love or we did it for the fans, but they didn't understand because of lack of marketing or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, like I think there is a new level of authenticity and transparency and vulnerability expected to be attached with this space, and I think it's building a more educated consumer. And that's where we're at now, where people aren't so giddy to throw money at anything that moves and shakes and flips, right? And understanding that it's technology beneath the art or the aesthetic or the consumer facing, whatever it may be, you know, being able to delineate that is super important. And I think letting people understand that that's really, like, on a base level, like, that's all it is. Obviously there's layers underneath it, but, you know, being able to separate those two and let people understand what they're getting and the future value of it is not to be expected, and it's dictated by the people that are behind it. That's all inside, right? And how about you? What would you say is, like, the biggest level of adversity or obstruction you faced in getting people in or into?
Well, I think, first of all, the technology is a little too complicated for the everyday user. I think that as they develop technology that allows people to, obviously, and there's more of this already coming out, but when you're able to connect your credit card and you're able to buy an NFT or buy a token on, you know, a website, and it feels more like you're purchasing an item off of a website, more like, you know, like when gamers are playing Fortnite and they're collecting the skins, and it doesn't feel like there's like a blockchain involved and it's not so overly complicated. I think when they can sort of integrate that type of an interface with what the Web3 projects are trying to do, I think that you'll be able to really appeal to the mass audience, because right now it's a little too complicated for a lot of people. I mean, I remember when I first got into crypto, there's a lot, you know, understanding blockchain, understanding, you know, how the tokens are not really on your wallet, they're on the blockchain, and just like there's a lot of things that are just too complicated for everyday person. And then having, obviously, like the transactions and putting the addresses and all that stuff, it's just like a lot of it's like really scary for the everyday, you know, the average consumer. So I think that once that bridge is kind of like crossed over and there's an interface that's a little bit more easier for consumers to just basically type in their credit card and be involved in something, whether it's a community, whether it's a token, whether it's a project, an NFT, a skin, anything, I think that's when the, you know, that bridge is going to be what's really going to appeal to all the mass and really get the world on board. Right now, I think we're still kind of like figuring it out, but we're getting closer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that falls into education and accessibility to have adoption, right? I built a 250,000 person community in the space by educating, but I've seen other people come into the space and taking advantage of people's lack of education when they could have made so much more impact and money if they provided that education. There's a lack of publishers in Web3. There's a lack of journalistic integrity. There's a lack of editors. Like, there's so many different opportunities, and it doesn't matter if you're not a curator, creator, or collector. It doesn't matter if you're not a dev or engineer or back end, front end, whatever. There's so much room for growth and so many opportunities that you could have a fresh start tomorrow and change your life the next day. So I think the education component is so key and clutch. And yeah.
I mean, I'll say education is super important, but also it's like, you know, it falls on kind of product builder to build easier product, right? Like internet was like a thing, but like my mom didn't, you know, kind of passively just use it every day until Apple came out with the iPhone, and she, like, everything she does, she's communicating with everybody like back home in China. Like the interface that like Apple put out was like game changer. That was the watershed moment for mass adoption, right? For mobile computing. So like we're not quite there yet, right? So what One Of does today is kind of a hybrid approach. We do let you sign up with a email, phone number. We do, like, if you don't understand crypto, we do custody your help you custody your assets. But like it's a stopgap, right? So they need to be much better, easier to use, like wallet, understandable, all those solutions, which will come in probably, in the next like 2 to 3 years, that really help. Like the onboarding burden of me having to, or somebody like my mom had to go take a 3-week like deep dive course on, right? Like she's just never gonna do it. Like most people just won't do it. But like if I am a Miguel fan and I need to collect the latest whatever he's offering to his community, I should be able to do that within 2 minutes from like learning about this opportunity, right? Like so that needs to happen.
Conscious design, period. Frictionless transactions.
I hope you're a Miguel fan. Oh, bro. But
took,
convenience, right?
Took 3 weeks.
Convenience.
3 weeks for his mom to get your NFT.
Listen, it took so long. I mean, onboarding anyone at this point, really, it is like the education proposition, and how easy it is now for us to make a purchase with our credit card. That's like, you don't even have to touch it. You don't have to put your password in anymore. Your password is remembered for you. Everything is so convenient on the Web 2 side that when you try and step into Web 3, then it's like, okay, wait, now we have to back up and then like kind of learn all this foreign stuff. So I think with time, all of the convenience will catch up and it'll be so much easier to onboard. And it'll be a lot more information out there and more people advocating. Again, use case changes the level by which we have interest, right? So the more use case we have across the board, more people will have more interest, which means more education will naturally be brought to the space, and yeah, naturally it'll happen. So it's just, I think about, again, more projects remaining true to the ethos and focusing on the ethos of the community to meet the convenience. And when those two kind of get to the same place, then we'll see another reemergence of popularity, I guess.
Yeah, it's almost like you guys are saying we're unlearning, right? Because technically that's what we're doing. Like, from even streaming services, like music was never meant to be $1. It doesn't cost $1 to make. Why would you, what? And then we're renting, we used to like tangible and physical goods. We have collections of DVDs and VHS tapes and CDs and so on and so forth, vinyl records, cassettes, all that, and we're becoming disenfranchised by the machine or the man by renting the thing that we love the most, that we want on demand, that's being blocked by ads, right? So going back to the direct-to-consumer side, like, this is really feeding a palette that has been kind of starved for a long time, and it's really allowing new connections and relationships to be born, which redefine our culture. And I think that goes back to the Renaissance thing. So I guess looking forward, I'd love to know how you guys define success. How you guys define success, whether in Web3 or just in general. I think it's a question that anybody can approach in a different way that provides perspective.
To me, success is seeing a vision through without losing your principle, understanding that the vision will change, and accepting that ultimately it's about finishing and moving on. I think if we can continue to build things that, really stay true to the core of the purpose, and can accept that it will augment and it will evolve in the process, and be able to accept that without losing ourselves in it, being disenfranchised by the challenges, remembering that there's learning that will push us to new levels in the end, and ultimately that's the purpose. I think you're successful because every new peak is just another plateau. You'll find another mountain to climb, you'll find another planet to reach, and that's exactly what we continue to do as human beings. It's a part of who we are. And so yeah, I think that's really the core of it for me.
I don't know how I follow up with that. So I'm going to define a little in a more micro level, right? So when I started this company, the goal is basically we saw the potential of Web3, how this is going to transform like every industry. What we really wanted to do is be an enabler to really have this as like, how do we provide tools or access for music artists, for athletes, for big brands and small brands, right? We work with American Express. We also work with Get Main Lobster that deliver, you can get a digital token that gets you like like a year's supply of lobster. So really be the enabler, like to really help. And my goal is like small. People say like, to help the next billion customer. I only want to help the next 100 million customer. To really like people. I use my mom as an example. Just like people think she's really helpless, but really it's like, if the goal is, if I can actually get my mom to like go buy something that she finds value, not just like trading JPEGs, but like buy something that she's like, oh, okay, because like this gets me like a massage at like her favorite massage place or whatever, then I have achieved my goal, right? Like have the technology disappear, but also enable everyday people to connect with everyday like businesses or artists or things that they're passionate about.
I'll keep it short because I feel like you guys have already crushed it and killed it with your stuff, with your saying. But I think as an artist, I'm a pencil artist, I'm a visual artist, and I think as somebody who, whether you're not an artist and you're creating something and you just have a passion, I think that success to me is is pulling through and finishing and succeeding on your passion and creating something that brings value to the consumer that changed someone's life. Like for me, like doing a tattoo for somebody that was, in remembrance of someone that passed away for them and giving them something that was going to change their life forever for the rest of their life. They're always going to look at that. It was something that was going to change them. It changed them in some kind of a way. And now with, Benefit Media and my company, I'm trying to create an IP and a brand that, it's not tattoo related, but if I can make a difference and create something that brings value to the consumer, it's not about making money and making millions or taking as much money as I can from somebody. And obviously, just like Miguel said, the money will come when you have something that has value. Bringing value to the consumer, the money comes. You don't have to make it about the money. So I think that when you create something that can really impact the consumer, and it's something that you can make a difference in the community, make a difference in the technology, make a difference in the environment. Like if I can do something that's people are gonna remember it for the NFT space and the crypto space and the blockchain and the Web3 space, and they're like, that project stood out. That project was something really cool. That project did something different. That to me is success. That's the epitome of success, is being remembered for something that changed the life of somebody or made an impact on somebody.
I love that, because this whole space for me is definitely building in posterity. You're building for a better tomorrow, hopefully, and you want to look back and see the legacy that you're leaving behind. So absolutely, I agree. And yeah, I think that's our time. So I appreciate all you guys being here and all of y'all being here as well. Give it up real quick for our lovely speakers. And
thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.